So today's practical, what we're going to look at, it's a little bit different. It's going to be an application of looking at doing comparisons between questioned and known fingerprints. So we're going to be supplying you with a selection of exemplars as well as crime scene impressions. So the quality is going to be considerably different on them. Here's an example here of the exemplars, and a sheet here that has some of the crime scene impressions on it. So obviously you're going to have more exemplars to go through for each of the crime scene impressions, and things that you might want to consider if you remember from the lecture regarding ridgeology concepts. So we're looking at a holistic approach. You're looking at the overall pattern formations. If you have a cluster of fingerprints, you can take into consideration which digits it might be for, or what hand it might be, the size and shape of the thumb versus the size and shape of a finger. And so the orientation on a cluster anatomically from the various heights of the fingers gives you an idea as to which finger maybe to focus in on when you're looking at the exemplars to kind of speed up your process and limit the number of fingerprints you actually have to physically look at for comparative purposes. So you're going to be provided with a sheet that has 6 crime scene fingerprint impressions on it. Some of them may be single digits, others might be clusters. And you're also going to get a selection of 4 of the exemplars obviously with 10 digits on each one to do your comparisons to. Now when you are making your comparisons, a couple of things you might want to consider doing that might help you is to maybe take your exemplar and your crime scene impression and put them side by side, maybe even potentially overlapping them slightly so that it brings them into closer comparative eyesight, that you can visualize the location of each of the different minutiae on each of them and make it easier for yourself. Now, for those at home, you may want to access a magnifying glass. For the ones that are in class, they're going to have these fingerprint loops at their disposal. They have an adjustment knob on the back that will allow the shaft or the optical lens to move up and down on a shaft, again to adjust for different people's focus and different eyesight. So when you are using this, the concept is that you place it down over top of the impression, and you can move back and forth between your crime scene impression and your exemplar when you're looking at them. By overlapping them, for instance, such as this here, you may be able to put both impressions under the glass at the same time, which is going to make it easier for you when you're doing your comparisons. Now, for those that are in class, we also have these ridge counters, as they are referred to, and they're simply just mini lethal weapons. It's got a handle on it, and it's just got a very sharp metal point on it. And you can use these as place markers to show, if you are looking at spatial comparison between the different minutiae, you can hold this as a place marker on one impression and do the same on the other one, so that your eyesight is more easily drawn to that particular location, so you're not searching to find your starting spot or your continuing spot from the previous ridge path characteristic that you were observing. For those of you that don't have access to those ridge counters, even simply using a couple of paper clips and just straightening them out, and they make very good ridge counters as well. When you're looking at your crime scene impressions to help start for elimination purposes, as we said, you might want to look at the anatomical positioning of each of the different digits. If you've got more than one, then that may assist you in narrowing it down. You can also look at if it's a loop pattern, if it's a right loop or a left loop, being an ulnar or a radial loop, it'll give you some indication as to which hand it might be as well. Whatever you can use to minimize your search. So as you go through and you're looking at your exemplars, you can quickly go through and eliminate the ones that you know for sure are not your crime scene impressions and narrow it down so that, again, you're only looking at a specific few that maybe appear to be close in your mind as to whether or not that the characteristics are similar in location. Now, this exercise is not a graded exercise. This is only for your own interest and hopefully enjoyment. I hope you enjoy doing this. Certainly, we will provide you with the actual answers, but we're going to delay doing that. We'll provide them to you at the end of the lab so that you can quickly have a look at them yourselves to see, hopefully you've got them correct, but if not, you can see where your error has occurred when you've made an assignment. Now, remember, if you're unsure of the impression, whether or not it is a match, you might want to delay that and come back to it afterwards. Look at the ones that you have that recognition of first, and then deal with the more difficult ones after the fact, so you can at least have some positive results as you're doing the exercise. You will notice as you're going through it the importance of having a good quality exemplar impression, because you can see that in some areas there may be a high percentage of blacked out area, or where areas of smudging, areas basically where the minutiae is not discernible, in which case now you may be relying on other areas of lesser quality on your crime scene impression that either may not have been reproduced, or may be the clarity may be not sufficient to be utilizing what detail is available in your exemplar for your comparison purposes.